Welcome into the Throwback Thursday version of the Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. Today I am joined by Blaine Keller, who is on top of all things in Sumner County sports for Main Street Media of Tennessee. Wade Neely continues to be somewhere deep in the heart of Texas, and hope he's having a great time out there. Going to be a pretty sweaty mess out there from what I hear. But Blaine and I will be here for the next couple of hours in the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, discussing sports of local, regional, national, and yes, international importance. So stick with us. It's going to be fun. Blaine, good afternoon. Thanks for coming in with us.
Afternoon, Mo. Just hope to do as good of a job as David Wilson did yesterday.
Oh, you'll be fine. This isn't your first rodeo, so we're not worried about that. Yeah.
My second, I think, but yeah.
It is. But yeah, it's kind of like riding a bike, so I got faith in you. We got a good show today. We will be visiting in the second hour with VALAIR SHABILLA, Broadway Sports Media, talking a little soccer, specifically the Nashville Soccer Club, who, as we mentioned yesterday, fell in their second Leagues Cup group stage match up at New England a couple of nights ago. So their Leagues Cup foray this year is finished, in marked contrast to the run that they got on last year. So we're going to talk a little bit to VALAIR and see where NSC sits as they go into about a 2.5 week layoff before they resume MLS play here at Geodis Park in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to getting his take on them. In the next segment, it's Coach's Corner, and we will be going up to Blaine's neck of the woods as we visit with second-year Gallatin High School football coach Michael STROUP. Is that right? STROUP. Okay. Michael STROUP will be visiting with us to talk a little Green Wave gridiron. So looking forward to getting some insight from him with the season right around the corner here, I guess, a couple weeks. So looking forward to that. We'll also be talking some Braves. Wow.
For better or worse?
For better. Well, mostly worse right now. We'll be talking little Rangers, speaking of worse.
Yeah.
And there was a firing today in Major League Baseball. Take a guess at who it was. We'll touch on that. We'll be talking some Olympics, a little NFL, a little college football. And again, it is Throwback Thursday. We will be throwing it back to a recent conversation that we had with the voice of the Volunteers. Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame inductee Bob KESLING joined us here recently, and we're going to again revisit the conversation that we had with him. So looking forward to that. That's what the show is going to look like. Blaine, what's been happening up in Sumner County? I mean, obviously, again, we're going to be talking with Coach STROUP here in a bit, and I'm looking forward to it because, it's always interesting to me when you're coaching your son, particularly when your son is QB1. And so I'm kind of looking forward to getting a little insight into that dynamic there with him, among other things. But what else you got going on up there with your, 10 schools?
Yeah, 10 area schools. And Mo, I think the last time that we talked, I was talking about the beginning phases of our Sumner County Football Preview magazine. Don't mean to sound like a broken record here on Main Street Sports Today, but that's still what's happening here in Sumner County. Trying to get the rundown on what's happening in every team in our area for football. And then next week you turn the page and girls soccer starts up. And our county, Liberty Creek Station Camp, that's 2 state champions in the area. So got to keep tabs on that. And, volleyball's had some happenings here and there where we've got to keep our eyes peeled for that too. So we're hitting busy season at this point.
Absolutely. High school sports is coming. And we also at Main Street Murray will have a fall sports preview coming out. I I guess, a week from Wednesday. It'll be in our August 21st issue, so be sure and check that out. We will have coverage of all of the football programs in Murray County, as well as girls soccer, volleyball, boys and girls golf, and boys and girls cross country. So be sure and look out for that coming here 2 weeks from yesterday. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at here over the next couple of hours. So let's go ahead and dive in right now with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
It's brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates. The Blue Raider Voice also wants you to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Contact Chip at 615-542-1915 or through his website at choosechip.net. That's choosechip.net. Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Tennessee.
Yesterday's pretty short schedule. Sorry, Blaine. The Astros with a 6-4 victory over the Rangers in Major League Baseball. Also, the Brewers with an 8-5 win over the Braves. Over at First Horizon Park, it was the Indianapolis Indians dealing the Nashville Sounds a 7-4 defeat.
Yeah, in today's baseball schedule, Brewers and Braves are underway. I believe I saw, unfortunately to say for you, Mo, not to see an updated score. I saw 5-0 Brewers early on in that one.
Oh, it's way worse. Try 14-4. Try 14-4 Milwaukee.
Some position players coming in to relieve Uncle Charlie there. Charlie Morton on the mound for the Braves. Tomorrow in baseball action, Astros are at the Red Sox in Boston. 6:10 first pitch there. The Braves move on to Colorado. 7:40 p.m. start there. And throughout the weekend, Saturday, Astros again at the Red Sox. That's a 3:10 start. Braves at Rockies, continuing that series through Sunday with the matinee games. Sounds tonight, Friday, and Saturday are facing the Indianapolis Indians. 6:35 pitch today, tomorrow, and the next day, Sunday. That's a 6:05 first pitch. And don't forget about the Titans starting some preseason action against the 49ers at 6 p.m. Saturday. That's at Nissan Stadium.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Mill in Columbia. Be sure and get through there and check out their delicious daily deli lunch items, which are available until 6 o'clock p.m., as well as their hand-cut meats. And everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And today's top story, if you want to get up early tomorrow, real early, like about 4 o'clock our time, 5 o'clock Eastern time, but that'll be 12 noon in Paris. You can see the youngest member of the U.S. track and field team take the track as 16-year-old Quincy Wilson, a high school track phenom out of the D.C. area, will run the lead leg on the U.S. 4x4 in prelims. So,
wow.
Yeah. Qualified for the Olympic team with 3 sub-45 400s at the trials, and then set a personal best not long after that with a 44.2 in the 400. He is the world's 11th fastest man in the 400 this year and the 4th fastest American. And
at 16.
At 16.
Some kids don't even have driver's license yet. This guy's in Paris for the Olympics.
In Paris for the Olympics with his eye on a medal. Absolutely. Wow. Was held out of the mixed 4x4 relay last weekend. That team won a silver, but this marks his last opportunity to run, and there's been kind of some conjecture of whether or not they were going to get him on the track And so apparently he is going to run in the prelims. Now, whether that means that he would run in the finals, should they make it or not, I'm not sure how that shapes up, but certainly something to keep an eye on. But again, Quincy Wilson from DC will be running in the 4x4 prelims tomorrow in Paris. And again, I mean, Blaine, we've been to Spring Fling. Can you imagine watching somebody in the state championships and then looking up 3 months later and seeing them running in the Olympics?
I get pretty flabbergasted or impressed whenever I see some of these kids, whether at the cross country meet, here in Hendersonville, or the Spring Fling in Murfreesboro. If I see a kid that's committed to a college, like who's going to go play, run at the Division I level, I think that's pretty cool to get to see somebody at that level. But this guy just far and beyond. I could never. I mean, that's like imagining covering some football kids on Friday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday they're getting ready to play in the NFL. So that's that's pretty impressive.
It really is. And we've seen some talent at Spring Fling. I know not this past spring, but the spring before, there was a kid from Rockvale who went down to Auburn this year, and I think he finished second in the NCAAs in one of the sprints, maybe the 200s. Monty Hale from the Murfreesboro Post was kind of keeping me up on him. So, every now and then we see some talent come through here, but nothing quite like this,
Nothing Olympic level yet.
No, not yet. Not yet. Yeah, that is the key word. I mean, because you never know. So, we'll keep our eyes peeled, and we'll be sure and let you know if we see any Olympians at Spring Fling or elsewhere in our travels across Middle Tennessee high schools. Because, we go from preps to pros, and who knows, maybe we can go from preps to Olympians here at some point. We've talked a lot about Blades Brown, the former Brentwood Academy golfer. I don't know if he was in the field for the Wyndham Championship or not, but that event over in Greensboro was delayed by a day as a result of Tropical Storm Debbie. Apparently, Debbie is a lot more disastrous than her name might indicate. They had to push back the start of that PGA event today. Again, it's the last PGA Tour event of the regular season, and it may not take place as a result of weather conditions that are taking place over there. East Coast really getting hammered by Tropical Storm Debbie. Initially, this event at the Sedgefield Country Club in Greensboro, North Carolina, was delayed until 3, and they went ahead and just canceled the first day in its entirety, and they may not get going tomorrow either. So huge ripple effect for this, because again, it is the last scheduled regular season PGA event. The first playoff event is the FedEx St. Jude Invitational next week down in Memphis, and some folks are trying to play their way into that. So
interesting note in this from CBS Sports, according to that PGA Tour handbook on that, if they can't play 72, they try to play 54. And if they can play 54, the winner gets an official victory. But if they can only play 36, you receive official money, but not FedEx Cup points. So if my understanding is on that's right, that really does have a lot of implication on the playoffs at that point. And you're credited with an unofficial victory on 36 holes.
Yeah. And beyond that, there's obviously question about what the course is going to look like whenever they are able to get on it, with the weather that they've taken on here over the last day, and look as if they will be taking on tomorrow as well. So gonna be a fun go over in Greensboro, looks like. Plenty to look forward to there. So keep your eyes peeled. Let's go ahead and take a break from the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we'll be talking a little high school football with Gallatin coach Michael STROUP here on Coach's Corner. Stay tuned. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
He shoots, and he scores!
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Blaine Keller joining me today. Blaine from the Sumner County, Times? News? What?
Hendersonville Standard.
Okay.
Gallatin News, Portland Sun. You know, there's not a county paper. My job would be a lot easier if there was just a county paper. But we got 3 city papers, so unfortunately, not a county kind of guy. I am a county kind of guy, but the job descriptions for the area in particular, 3 areas.
Gotcha. Keeping you hopping up there north of Nashville, and glad you were able to carve out a little time to come on with us today in the absence of Wade Neely, who was out and about somewhere in the DFW Metroplex. So hope he's staying hydrated out there. It is now time for Coach's Corner here on Main Street Sports Today, and we are joined by second-year Gallatin football coach Michael STROUP. Coach STROUP, good afternoon.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
We're doing well, man. Appreciate you taking some time with us. I didn't know exactly what your practice schedule looked like as we reached out to you to ask you to come on, but I'm glad you were able to accommodate us for a few minutes.
Yes, sir. Glad y'all had me.
Yes, sir.
Wanted to say this was almost an unofficial installment of the Green Wave Coaches Show from last year, which Coach STROUP and I put on. Coach, wanted to kick off with this. You sent me your scrimmage schedule from a couple of days ago. You guys are facing Ensworth tonight. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. We go to Ensworth. Yep.
Any excitement on your part about facing not only a team of that caliber, maybe, but a couple of the coaches that they have in that program now with Matt and Tim Hasselback and Orleans Darkwa, a couple of NFL guys. Does that excite you at all as a coach and maybe a follower of national football?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's high school football. I mean, I'm sure they're good guys and all. So, but we're looking to go over there and just, and get challenged, and I was talking the other day with Coach Luna, basketball coach here at Gallatin, and we bounce a lot of ideas off each other. And there's some years you go into scrimmages and you're looking for confidence, and there's other times you're looking for results. And that's kind of what we're wanting to do, and play up a little bit and get ready for the regular season.
Coach, when you say you're talking with Coach Luna, Coach Luna and I go back about 40 years, and I've not heard of very many people talking with Coach Luna. Most people get talked to by Coach Luna.
That's 100%. That's 100%. Well, if he'll breathe for a little bit, he can get some.
Then you can get something in, huh?
Yeah.
Bobby's a great guy, Coach, and he's a great one to bounce things off of. I'd imagine a BCAT Hall of Famer, and anytime you're dealing with somebody who's got the floor name for him in their home gym, there's something to be said for that. So that's great that you guys have got a great relationship there. In your second year coming over from West Tennessee, Coach, how did you feel like year one went relative to what your expectations were coming into a storied program like Gallatin and everything that they've accomplished, but at the same time, everything that they've been here over the last while?
Yeah, I think everybody's expectations are different. I mean, you have expectations from the outside who probably are more focused on results, and then my personal expectations was just trying to, kind of get it back in line, and get order reestablished inside the locker room, and with the kids. There's a little bit of I guess unorganization a little bit, because they were so long between Coach Watson and my arrival, so we had to get those pieces put back in place and reestablish some standards, and this is how we're going to do things. And if you don't want to be a part of it, then you don't have to be, but this is how we're going to do things.
Coach, I'm curious, coming from University School of Jackson, had some success over there. And obviously I'm probably kind of plowing old ground at this point, but I didn't get a chance to ask you, what was the attraction of Gallatin High School to a guy who had the success that you had over in West Tennessee?
I think at the time it was an opportunity for me and my family to kind of get into the Middle Tennessee area. Back in 2000 and I don't know, it might have been 2008, 2007. I was a DC for the first time at Adamsville High School, and that's where I first kind of learned about Gallatin. And so, I kind of always followed them, and thought it was interesting and the tradition that they had. I knew a lot about Gallatin football and Coach Short before I even got here. So, it was just one of those things where you kind of see the tradition and you try to get it back. Now the landscape's different in Sumner County than it was back in the 90s. You got you've got Station Camp, and you've got Liberty Creek, and Beach is here now, and so those weren't always around. It used to be just Hendersonville and Gallatin. But we think we got some good kids here that we can mold into really good people, and hopefully make them good football players in the process.
Coach, you led off by saying that sometimes you go into the preseason and scrimmages looking for confidence. Sometimes you go in for results. Was last year more confidence?
I think last year was just trying to find my way through the door. I kind of walked in with a here's your schedule type deal. So yeah, I think last year we were growing as a team as far as philosophy of offense. You know, we started doing some things that traditionally just hadn't been done in Gallatin. I mean, you throw the ball, you know, more than 10 times, then they think you're just kind of it's air raid around here. So, you know, we were a little bit different of an offense, and so these guys, the receivers, are now catching balls instead of blocking, and you know, that took a while to kind of get that going. And once we did, though, we had some success, and so we just got to build on that.
It's interesting that you say that, Coach, because 3 yards in a cloud of dust has been as applicable at Gallatin through the years as anywhere. You know, how was that, and how has that been received both on the field by those receivers who are actually getting to catch balls and in the seats?
You know, I think the kids are excited. I think it's a breath of fresh air. You know, I haven't been able to say this saying in a long time, but I can say it now. You know, when kids go play NCAA football, you know, they want to throw the ball around. You know, you have a few out there that want to pick Navy and Army and want to run the flex bone, but most time they want to run spread and get the ball and throw it around and all that other stuff. So the kids, they clinged on to it pretty good. And I think the community did too. You know, I remember playing, I guess we're playing Hendersonville the first game last year, and it's 4th and 10, and I'm going for it. And, you know, I've got an expert in the bleachers telling me to run the ball on 4th and 10, and then we pull it out and RPO it and throw a 35-yard touchdown pass, and everybody goes, I bet he stood up too, but I didn't look to see. But I mean, everybody went wild and crazy. So, you know, it's just it's catching on.
That's good. That's good. Open the season with losses to Hendersonville and Mount Juliet around a big 42-39 win over Station Camp. Then picked up 3 straight on the way to an eventual 7-4 finish. That first Gallatin football team under Michael STROUP, who is now joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today. Coach, you said you kind of want to build off of last year. What do you feel like there was from last year to build off of heading into this season?
You know, I think we've got a lot of. We're young. You know, we're young. We've replaced everybody but one on defense. But we're athletic, and we're faster. We just got to put 2 and 2 together and use it to our advantage. Offensively, you know, we've got 3 running backs back there that we think that can take it to the house at any time. And then receiver wise, we're growing there. We return our leading receiver and Jeremiah Williams. He'll help there. But we also got some guys this year that they're behind him that can play as well. They've gotten better too. So, and you know, the quarterback's got a year underneath his belt. So he's grown as well. And, you know, we just take those things and, you know, I don't care what system you run. I don't care, you know, whether it's the T formation or you're running 5 wide. It's going to start up front with those 5 guys on both sides of the ball. And you've got to be really good there. And we're still getting to know some pieces and putting some puzzles together in that regard. But they're coming along, and we think we got a whole lot of faith in those guys up front too.
Coach, talking about the athleticism side of things, this was one thing I picked up when we were going through our Sumner County football preview for Gallatin. New defensive assistant Cam Thomas, who played a couple of seasons at WKU, had his own cup of coffee in the National Football League, and is now doing things to help the speed work of guys, including your second-year quarterback, your son, Jackson Stroup. What has that looked like specifically for him to help your guys get faster?
Well, I think the first thing Cam did, and Cam's a great person, first of all. He was a Jim Thorpe finalist at WKU, and like he said, spent some time with the Buffalo Bills and the NFL. Cam has came in and poured into these kids, and it was by chance that we were able to secure him. He has a son in Goodlettsville, and he wanted to be closer to him, so he moved down this way. And he reached out to me, wanting to know if I could, be in use of him. And we sat down a couple times, had a few meetings, and he's just a great person altogether. But he gets out there and he'll meet with these kids, and they come up here and they work a little extra on their own, and he gets with them, and they just go through what they think they're doing is working on speed. What's actually happened is relationships are being built. That at the end of the day, that's what's happening. And they've done a great job with that, him and Coach Turner.
Michael STROUP, second-year Gallatin High School football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Coach, Blaine just mentioned your quarterback who's got a year under his belt now, as you put it, unnamed at the time, but Jackson STROUP. Talk about the dynamic, Coach, of coaching your kid, and specifically when your kid is QB1.
Well, I think a lot of people would probably put a lot of pressure on themselves, and but I've taken the approach to enjoy it, and not saying that I don't have my moments with him, but when we moved here, I had several people reach out to me that I know that they coach their sons, and both they were like, enjoy it, don't put too much pressure on him. We did it. Coach it differently. And I asked, I had Jim Hardigree as a defensive coordinator at USJ, and he had a son, Bo Hardigree, now coaching the quarterbacks at the Titans, and Tommy Browder, who coached both his side. My offensive coordinator, and I worked for Tommy, Cleaver's coach, when I first got in. And at Jackson was probably 7th, 8th grade at the time, I think. And we were sitting in the office one day, and I asked both those guys, who probably had 75 years of experience between them two, and I said, if you tried to do it all over again, would you do it different? And both of them didn't even bat an eye at me, and they said 100% they would. And so, and I've heard stories. Coach Hardigree told me stories that he had times with his wife, his son, his wife got so mad at him, made him sleep outside on the porch. But you listen to those things, and you listen to those guys, because those guys have forgotten more football than I'll ever know. And so I've enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed being able to spend time with my son, because a lot of times coaches whose kids don't play football, we don't get to spend a whole lot of time with them. We spend our time with other people's kids more than we spend with ours. But getting to spend time, I've enjoyed it. And I think he has too.
And Coach, that's as you just mentioned with the guys whose brains you pick, that's kind of a paradigm shift, because so often the approach that you take when you're coaching your kid is you want to make sure that nobody thinks he's getting something for nothing or anything like that, and you want to you feel like you got to be harder on him for the optics of it. And it sounds like more and more people are realizing that that's the least important part of that dynamic.
I don't think there's any kid on this team that wants to be Jackson STROUP. All right. Because there are times where, at practice, we may have we're not on the same page sometimes. I may be thinking another thing and he does another. And so he catches it now. It's not saying he doesn't catch it, but I don't leave practice, all right, with any kid thinking that, hey, that guy don't like me. Even with my own son, I will find time past the moment where I walk up to him and say, hey, listen, here's what I meant. All right. And we kind of push pause, and we regroup with each other. But I treat everybody the same on this team, and some people may say, well, you treat your son different. They're probably right, and probably in the other way. I'm not patting him on the rear end too much. But he knows I love him, and I love those kids, man. They have done nothing. They have done nothing but what I've asked them to do, and they're a great group to coach.
Coach, is that kind of a shift from when you played, that going back and making sure that, let's press pause, let's get back into a positive space, a positive headspace, that kind of thing, which is something you'd have never heard when you were playing either. But I mean, is that just a different approach for coaches, taking the time to even be worried about that?
Well, I think here I'm gonna try to answer this best way I can without getting in trouble. Here's the thing: these days, these kids have parents want to be buddies. All right, they don't want to be parents, and they don't have, like, you got to tell them no. It's okay if your child's upset with you because you make him do right. But it's also, when they get in trouble, I'm gonna hold you accountable, and you're gonna be disciplined. I'm not gonna hang it over your head. All right, we're gonna move on together with this thing. When I played, and when there wasn't none of that. It was, football coach tough. Which is why we get a whole lot of stereotypes in this day and age. There's a heat policy in effect in the TWA because somebody in America didn't do what they were supposed to do and take care of kids, right? So you have a policy for everything because somebody doesn't know how to treat kids. So, it's times have changed, and you gotta guide these kids in the right direction. But I treat them like my own. I'm gonna get mad at them. I'm gonna get upset with them. I'm gonna discipline, but I'm gonna tell them why I'm disciplined. I'm just not gonna, not gonna let them leave thinking, well, he doesn't care for me. I'm gonna care for every one of them. I don't care where they are on the depth chart. Don't care where they are on the roster. Every one of them's important to me.
Here on Coach's Corner with Gallatin football coach Michael Stroup. Coach, I know that you are looking forward to this upcoming season, but as a sports writer in Sumner County, I almost feel the need to ask this question. With the reclassification period coming up, of course, this kind of hangs in the air over this one. But your son and Beach quarterback Caden Powell, I would debate, are two of the best quarterbacks in the county. And, both came in last year, both had 30-some-odd touchdown seasons, and really played well. Didn't get a chance to play each other, will not have a chance to play each other this year. So senior year would maybe be an opportunity. Is that something that you and Coach Crabtree have discussed at all, even maybe in a region next year? Maybe not. Just an out-of-region game. Is that something that's been discussed at all?
Nah. I mean, listen, so
just two high-profile quarterbacks. I mean,
they at the end of the day, they're not playing each other. I mean, there's Beach and Gallatin will play. Jackson quarterback for Gallatin and Powell's the quarterback for Beach. It's just, it'll be a Beach Gallatin football game at the end of the day. But we haven't talked about it at all. I think we said hi twice to each other. I saw my 7-on-7 in Kentucky, and we were talking about how hot it was and who's going to be the first one to go home. So, but no, we don't. No.
Coach, before we let you get out of here, I want to get your thoughts on your region. You open with Mount Juliet in week 3. You've also got Green Hill, Cookeville, Wilson Central, and you finish up with Lebanon in week 10. Week 11. What are your thoughts about this region and how things shake out, or how they look like they could shake out?
Our region is so dang close. There's not a lot of difference between a lot of them. It's a competitive region. Now, I think we're all trying to play catch up to the other one across 40 over there. But I think that anybody can take the top spot. I mean, there's a number of teams that can finish 1 through 4. I mean, that was obvious from last year. We were looking to finish, I think, second, and then we ended up finishing fourth. I think we barely got in. You know, so you know it's a very competitive league. You've got, you know, I think Cookville's going to be a well of a matchup. I think Mount Juliet's going to be well coached and get after it. Green Hill's another one. I think Wilson Central's on the bump. So you've got those programs. Lebanon, another one. You know, I mean, I'm telling you, they're all just kind of, including us. We're just all kind of there in the middle there. Anybody can take it.
I'm looking at your schedule, Coach, and this September 13th game at your place against Dixon County has been designated as a throwback game. You guys will be wearing Union High uniforms, paying tribute to the pre-integration Black high school in Gallatin, and one of the best student athletes to come out of there is the late Bill Ligon, who passed away earlier this year. And yeah, I would think that that's something that the community and hopefully your kids are going to be really excited about being able to do.
Yeah, that week our kids will be able to, you know, our football team will be able to kind of go over there and check out the high school and the museum they have over there to learn a little bit about the Union High School and the football program they had over there. That's what the basketball team does the week they do their Union night. But we were, I was at actually the Union game for basketball, and I kind of witnessed the alumni there, and I thought to myself, I was like, man, why don't we do this in football? And I had a conversation with Coach Luna, and Coach Luna's like, man, that'd be awesome. Need to do it. And so, you know, I got with Johnny Allen, an administrator here at Gallatin, and we got the ball rolling on it. And I mean, how fast that turned around, and people were like, hey, we're gonna give you money for that. That's 100% us. And so, man, that was great. And to be able to do that for Union High School alum, it's probably going to be bigger than I realize. And so, but you know, we're excited to do that and to do it for years to come.
Do you guys have the uniforms yet?
We do.
The next question is, can we see them? And the answer is no. So
I'd have to walk across the street to get them. So
yeah,
I've got a picture on Twitter of them, I think, somewhere.
I had seen maybe something really, you know, kind of, I had seen a small glimpse of it, and at the announcement, the uniforms weren't released yet. So I was hoping that box behind you was maybe some version of it, and we could have seen it there. It was a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Michael STROUP, football coach at Gallatin High School, joining us here on Main Street Sports today on Coach's Corner. Coach, we really appreciate you taking some time with us, and enjoy the trip to Ensworth this afternoon. I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun, not to mention once you get there. But good luck with that, and look forward to visiting with you here again at some point.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate all you guys do for high school football.
Thank you, sir. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking a little Major League Baseball, so stay with us when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
2014, 2-out, 2-run home runs by Justin and B.J. Upton in the first and second innings off Nat starter Steven Strasburg marked the 5th time the brothers had each gone yard in the same contest, setting a major league record. The Uptons moved past Jeremy and Jason Giambi as well as Vladimir and Wilton Guerrero, as the Braves also got bombs from Freddie Freeman and Tommy La Stella to shell Strasburg in an eventual 7-6 win. That was this day in Braves history.
Tommy La Stella, good immaculate grid answer. Right.
I am not nearly as good as immaculate grid as I would like to think I should be.
We've got a couple of pros in the Main Street Preps ranks. David Wilson's really good at it. Calvin White, our new Clarksville reporter, a couple of good polls. Terry McCormick will get under 5, and he'll get mad if he doesn't get a total score lower than 5.
Well, Terry, and see, here's the thing. I think Terry and I are both kind of in the same generational pool, and I think we forget. I think our memory kind of betrays us sometimes, and it's unfortunate. Now, we'll surprise you every now and then too. So, but yeah, I don't mess with it because I get frustrated. That happens to me a lot. Stuff that I'm not very good at, I just don't mess with. Kind of like golf. But there was one home run, I guess. Austin Riley hit one early, but yeah, not a whole lot of thunder from the Braves today. After falling 8-5 to Milwaukee yesterday, extending their losing streak to 4 straight games, they got pummeled 16-7 today. And it was never close. Milwaukee scored 3 times in the first inning, and it never really got any better than that. By the time Atlanta scored, it was 8-3 on an Austin Riley 3-run homer, but Milwaukee came right back and scored 4 in the inning after that, I believe. So, I have really tried, because I have been behind this mic with some reactionary folks as it relates to the Braves, and I've tried to be the voice of reason. I'm running out of reason. Now, I know that this team is playing without 3 starters at this moment, 3 everyday starters in Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, and Michael Harris. I know that we're also playing without projected Cy Young Award candidate Spencer Strider. And I know that, as David pointed out yesterday, the guys that have started in his place this season have gone 13-21 behind the big 4 of Max Fried, Ronaldo Lopez, Chris Sale, and Charlie Morton, who I'm ready to move to that other position as well. But yeah, I mean, this is not the Atlanta Braves team that people expected to see at the onset of the season. I know that one person's reason is another person's excuse. I get all that. I know that you've got to find ways to be competitive regardless of injuries or whatever else. I get all that. But the reality of it is, this isn't the Atlanta Braves team that people were expecting to see at the onset of the season. They're going to struggle, and we're seeing that right now. I don't know what you do other than just struggle through it and get to whatever the end is and try to come back in 2025 and stay healthy. But I do know this. Prior to today's game, Eddie Rosario was designated for assignment. He had some moments since he came over from the Nationals this year, but for the most part, I think he was 12 of 78. 2021 is gone. It might be time to just rip the Band-Aid off, and I don't know if I want to see Charlie Morton on a major league mound for the Atlanta Braves again. And I appreciate everything he's done for this franchise. I appreciate what he meant to that 2021 team, giving up a leg basically in the World Series. I get all that. I would almost just as soon give his innings at this point to somebody who's going to benefit from them and benefit from the experience that they're going to gain on a major league mound at this point. I'm just not sure. The inconsistency, you don't know what you're going to get. Charlie is the Braves' box of chocolates. And I like chocolate, but I'm tired of that one.
It's like that orange chocolate. The chocolate with the orange inside.
Oh, yeah. Or with coconut. So yeah,
not a coconut guy myself.
I'm not a coconut guy at all. So yeah, let's get that chocolate out of here. Let's get AJ Smith-Shawver. Let's get Ian Anderson. Let's get somebody in here. And if Charlie wants to hang out and maybe tutor as a part-time pitching coach or something like that, if Charlie wants to go to the house, at this point, I'm okay with that, because he just gave up a career high 4 home runs today to Milwaukee. And the one thing that Brandon Gaudin and Tom Glavine kept saying is, this isn't a team that hits a whole lot of home runs. Well, you could have fooled me. Yeah. And again, I'm trying to stay even keeled about this. The Braves are still in the mix in the wild card. Michael Harris is right around the corner from coming back. Ozzie Albies is going to be back. I mean, there's a lot to like about this team, even as it's constructed. But, man, it's tough to find it when you're talking about losing 8-5 and 16-7 and getting swept at home by anybody. I mean, the Brewers are a good ball club. Yeah. And, as followers of the Nashville Sounds, it's kind of cool to see Sal Frelick and some of those guys that have been here at First Horizon Park go up there and kind of make their mark, but not against Atlanta. You know,
anybody else?
Any of the other 28 teams, I'm all for it. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, that was tough. So on we go to Colorado, which you'd like to think would be good for what ails you, but you thought that with Miami coming in here and you split with them. So now the Marlins are now 43-72. The Rockies are 42-73. So, hope springs eternal. Maybe we can get going on this road trip that I think also includes a stop in Anaheim and one other stop. It's 10 games, and the Braves really got some work to do. And it's not all pitching, but that's a lot of it. So
some weeks it feels like, from an outsider's perspective, of course, some weeks it's pitching, some weeks it's hitting, some weeks it's both.
Some weeks it's both. Absolutely. Yeah. 10-game road trip, 3 at Colorado, 4 at San Francisco, 3 at the Angels. And, as much as I love Ron Washington, we need to go and sweep the Angels next weekend. So we'll see how that goes. We talk a lot about the Houston Astros, Blaine, because that is Wade's team. And unfortunately, they have kind of exploited the Texas Rangers, who are your team. And I want to ask you, as a Rangers fan, because this was kind of the conclusion that Wade and I came to. When they traded Michael Lorenzen right at the trade deadline, was that kind of the white flag for the Rangers, the defending World Series champions?
I didn't think so, because the moves they made in return, getting Pennington, a guy who is now on the 40-man roster for the Rangers and has contributed some innings in relief. That was the return from the Royals. Andrew Chafin was a highly sought after arm, at least I thought, given his pedigree. And they upgraded the backup catcher position with Carson Kelly. Now, that's not a great upgrade, but it's better than Andrew Kisner. I opened up this week with the Silver Boot Series, tied, I believe, 6-6 or 5-5 at the time. And Josh Smith hit a 2-run walk-off homer on Monday to give the Rangers a win in extra innings. And I thought, this is the moment. This is the turning point. The Rangers fought back. They pitched well. The offense did enough. Let's start seeing some wins. The next day, they were nearly no-hit by the Lizard Man, Framber Valdez. It took the final out of the game to avoid a no-hitter. And I know 6-4 in the rubber match doesn't feel all that bad on paper, but they fell behind 5-0 to Yusei Kikuchi. Yusei Kikuchi! I mean, I know he's throwing his changeup more, and he might be a guy that the Astros turn into something. But if the Rangers had a chance to make a push for the playoffs, they needed to win that series. And now that they haven't, you have 2 teams to jump in Seattle and Houston, and one of them owns a tiebreaker over you. Seattle, that's to be determined, but that might be too little too late at that point with 10 or so games to go in the season. So that's my thought. I mean,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on the AL West, but it looks as if maybe Texas is not going to be in position to defend their World Series.
Might not even make it to the dance. Yeah. And that's frustrating, but at least there's a title. I guess I can rest my head on that every night. There is a title that will forever live to be random if the Rangers can't make it back to the postseason.
You are the 2023 World Series champions, so they can't take that away from you. What they can take away from Pedro Grifol is his job, and they did so this morning in Chicago. The White Sox manager, who was 1-1 in his last 2 games following last night's 3-2 loss at Oakland, but had been 0-21 in the previous. Grifol got fired finally. And I would imagine he said thanks.
Yeah.
Later in the day, Grady Sizemore was named interim manager. And I almost didn't know that this guy wasn't playing anymore, but he's 42 years old. I didn't realize that either. Played parts of 10 seasons with the Guardians, Phillies, Rays, and Red Sox, made 3 All-Star appearances, won 2 Gold Gloves, and is now the interim manager of the Chicago White Sox after Grifol was fired, finishing with an 89 and 190 record in parts of 2 seasons.
Interesting to note here, Mo. The White Sox didn't only fire their manager Grifol. Bench coach Charlie Montoyo, third base coach Eddie Rodriguez, assistant hitting coach Mike Tozar. They cleaned house.
Hey,
fired 3 guys, and
a new broom sweeps clean, right? I mean, it can't all fall on the manager.
Yeah, he joined the White Sox. Sizemore did this offseason with the title of just Major League Coach was his title going into this season. And
coach, yeah,
wow, yeah. So, man, Charlie Montoyo, I didn't know he was coaching for the White Sox. That's another great guy.
Apparently, some other folks didn't either. Maybe the White Sox didn't know he was coaching for the White Sox either. I'm not sure. They are 28 and 89 right now. When you see historically bad being used with your team's name, it's not a good thing. And that's been a regularly used phrase here over the past 3 weeks or so in reference to the White Sox. I don't think it's a question of when, but if they break the record of 120 losses that the 1962 New York Mets set. So, man, that's rough. Hour number 1 of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, comes to a close. Hour number 2 will start when we come back to the Lee Company studios here. And again, it is Throwback Thursday. We are going to throw it back in the next segment to our visit with the voice of the Volunteers, Bob Kesling. So stay tuned when we come back.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Now joined by one of the latest members of the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, the voice of the Vols for more than 3 decades, Bob KESLING, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Bob, good afternoon.
Maurice, always good to talk to you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, man, and congratulations, man. You know, when you hear about halls of fame and induction classes and that kind of thing, you know, we've talked to Brad Willis with the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. You know, you talk to other folks that are associated with various halls of fame, and invariably there is somebody that you hear is going into a hall of fame, and your reaction is, how are they not already in? Well,
one of my deals was I was on the board of the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame for a long time. And then there's a waiting period when you come off the board. So really, this was the first year I was actually eligible. Okay. But still, it's an honor whenever you get in. And
absolutely.
And I was happy to serve on the board. I'll probably get back on the board now when as things are kind of slowing down. I get a chance to really try and help. And there's Mike Keith, and that's Bill Williams in the middle, my longtime anchor at Channel 10, the news anchor. He was the Walter Cronkite of Knoxville News for a long time, about 30 years or so. But yeah, you know, the Radio Hall of Fame has been a great thing. And there's so many, you know, radio in the state of Tennessee has played such a big role with WSM and the Grand Ole Opry and all the Memphis radio stations that promoted rock and roll and the stations in East Tennessee that promoted country music. And so it's just got such a rich heritage. And we're trying to keep it going. Pamela Furr is the president. She's been a one-man wrecking crew trying to get everything put together. It does a wonderful job. But we're trying to get more radio stations involved and just keep the legacy of Tennessee radio going. But we had a great time in Murfreesboro on Saturday night. A lot of friends and family there, so that made it special as well. And Maurice, you know, you're in Hall of Fames. And if you're voted in by your peers, that makes it even more special. And so it was really special Saturday night.
You know, as you said, Bob, the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame in particular and radio in this state. I mean, I remember growing up and, you know, I remember when Larry Munson was still here doing Vanderbilt athletics, and obviously your predecessor with the Vol Radio Network, the legendary John Ward, and, you know, different folks like that, picking up Atlanta Braves radio broadcasts on WSM, as you mentioned. I mean, just the history of radio in this state, again, to reiterate what you said, is so rich and so legendary. And so for an organization like this to, you know, take it up to honor those involved with it is really a great undertaking on their part. And again, congratulations to you. It's good to know that you were inducted in the first year that you were eligible for induction. Makes me feel a little bit better about that. Yeah. How is he not already in? So,
well, that's kind of you to say. You know, I was one of those kids when I was growing up. When I grew up in Ohio, and I'd go to bed at night and I listened to the Reds game. And as soon as the Reds game was over, I had my transistor radio under the pillow and I had to go see how the Cardinals did because the Reds had to get the Cardinals. Then you switch it over to hear Bob Prince doing the Pirates on KDKA. And so I'd fall asleep every night with the transistor radio on underneath my pillow. Same thing in basketball. You know, where I grew up, you could get Indiana games, you could get Ohio State games, Dayton games, Xavier, Cincinnati, Kentucky with Kaywood Ledford. And I'd be all over the radio dial every night listening to the radio and listening to those games. And, you know, there's a magic to it. when you're sitting there and it's just you and Kaywood Ledford, and you're listening to him, and he's talking about Dan Issel and Mike Pratt and all these guys, and it's just special. Radio always has play-by-play on radio just has that special feeling and a magic to it, and that's what makes it so much fun to do it.
As you were doing that as a youngster, Bob, scrolling the dial, twisted it and just kind of tweaking it to get the static to clear up a little bit and that kind of thing, folks, that nobody knows anything about here in 2024. Right. But as you were doing that, did you envision being on the other side of that? No. And being on the other side of it for as long as you have been? No. I had no clue. I knew, I came to Tennessee. I lucked in to get into Tennessee. I was recruited by a bunch of small schools in Ohio to play football. And I had a buddy that his dad knew Ray Mears when Coach Mears coached at Wittenberg, which is outside Dayton and Springfield. And he was coming down with one of my best friends, and they were going to talk to Coach Mears about him being a manager or walking on the basketball team. And they wanted if I wanted to come with them. I said, well, yeah, I don't know where Tennessee is. Sure, I'll go with you. So I wrote down while they're in the basketball office, I went down to the football office and asked the secretary, what do you do to walk on the football team? She said, I don't know. You want to talk to Coach Battle? I said, yeah. Within 2 minutes, I'm in the head coach at Tennessee, Bill Battle's office. And then he takes me down to the freshman running back room, and I meet Kurt Watson and Don McClare. They hand me a workout sheet. And I call my dad, who was a big Ohio State guy. He was a drum major at Ohio State with a marching band and all that. So he's a big-time Buckeye. And he goes, well, if you're going to walk on at a big school, you need to go to Ohio State. And I said, well, Dad, it's cheaper for me to go to Tennessee out of state than it is Ohio State in state. And he said, go Vols. And so that's how I wound up at Tennessee. But, but I didn't come here thinking I was going to be a broadcaster. I didn't know anybody in the state of Tennessee, and the coaches barely knew who I was. But I got a job. I knew I wasn't going to be a star in football. I played on the freshman team and really had a lot of fun and got to we played Notre Dame and Alabama and all that. And so I had a great time, and I got to play quite a bit. But I knew I wasn't going to be a star in the SEC, and I needed to go do something else. And so I got a job with the Knoxville Sox baseball team. And I was the number 2 man on a 2-man staff. I was the assistant general manager of a 2-man staff. And I put the flag up and cook hot dogs and sell tickets and write press releases and take guys to the doctor and take the uniforms to get them cleaned and pull the tarp and rake the field. I did everything and just loved it. What a great summer job. And so that worked into a part-time job at WIBK. But when I graduated, I was going to be a baseball guy. I was getting ready to go to Nashville to the baseball meetings. I was going to get a minor league baseball job someplace. And eventually my goal was to be the general manager of the Chicago White Sox. That's what I wanted to do. And as I was walking out the door at WIBK, getting ready to go to Nashville, and I had to get a job somewhere. I just graduated. And Bobby Denton said, why don't you stay here? Paul Lyle's going over to Nashville to be the sports director at KDKA. Why don't you stay here and be our sports director? I said, okay. And that's how I got into radio. I had no plans to get into radio. And I thought, well, I'll do this for a while and see what else I want to do. And I always had my eye kind of on maybe getting into baseball, but then got a job at Channel 10 in town and then got to work for Jefferson Pilot. And then that led to doing all kinds of other stuff. And then when John Ward retired, Doug Dickey, I was gracious and honored and humbled when he picked me to be the guy that took over for John Ward. But none of this, Maurice, was ever planned. It just kind of worked out, and it's worked out really well for me. I'm blessed.
Yeah, and Bob, even, the industry's kind of changed a little bit, but what is it still in your mind? Every play-by-play broadcaster seems like they've got some sort of connection or got their start in minor league baseball. All their roots somehow, some way trace back to minor league baseball. And even though, like I said, the industry is changing a little bit, even still today, it feels like so many great up-and-coming broadcasters have that connection. What is that in your mind?
Bob, before you answer that, let me just interject real quick, because I think there's a parallel between that and print journalism, because I am thoroughly convinced that if you can cover high school athletics in print journalism, you can do anything. And I think that a very, very much a parallel between that and minor league baseball, because you're usually the only guy in the booth. And if you can survive minor league baseball, whether it's radio or whatever else it is you're doing, you can do anything.
And I think that's true. And there's another part to that too. You said high school football. A lot of guys get their start during high school football, that's where I started. WIVK picked up the Farragut High School games, and suddenly I'm the voice of the Farragut Admirals. And you would go to some fields, and they wouldn't even have them lined off. I mean, they had no numbers on the field. That you had to that mud hole's the 40, and then that bare spot midfield, and that's how you would do it. And they had no stats, and you couldn't trust the lineups. But if you could do high school football well, under those circumstances, you could do anything. And the same thing with minor league baseball. If you could be there every single night, cranking it. And I did minor league baseball. I did the sounds for a couple of years with Bob Jameson and George Plaster. We kind of flip-flopped back and forth between radio and TV, and I did the Knoxville Blue Jays for a couple of years and loved it. But I think Lindsey Nelson once told me that if you can do baseball well, then you can do pretty much any sport, and baseball gives you a chance to work on your craft because you have time to weave in stories. You have time to go down and talk to players. They're sitting around the batting cage, and you go down there every day and you pick up all kinds of stories that you can weave into your broadcast. So if you work at it, baseball is the best way to hone your craft. Football and basketball is so fast, and there's so much information that you've got to get out there. But baseball, it's just you and a guy driving around in a pickup truck, and you're having a conversation back and forth. And it's just it's just a really great way to really work on your craft and become a good broadcaster. And Lindsey Nelson told me it was the best of all the sports Lindsey Nelson did. He said baseball was the best for him.
Bob, I want to ask you too. You mentioned the speed of broadcasting, and obviously basketball on radio especially is 100 miles an hour. Football to me feels like the perfect cadence, but I'm not calling Josh Heupel football. Walk us through that process, because I mean,
it's warp speed.
Yeah, give the listeners and viewers a kind of paint that picture, if you would, for us.
I told Pat Ryan the other night, I said, we're cutting your payback, but we're going to pay you by the word, and you're not going to get many words in edgewise. It just goes. You have to really concentrate. That's the thing about it. You've got to see who they're substituting, if they're substituting, how fast and how they're lining up. You got to worry about down and distance. You got to worry about time. You got to worry about all the fundamental things that you need to do, but you got to do them 3 times as fast. And that's what makes it challenging. But it's fast. It's exciting. The games go by quick, and they're explosive. I mean, you don't have to worry about the game being 9-7. I mean, it's going to be more like 69 to 47, one of those type games. But his offense is exciting, but it is challenging to make sure that you get in a rhythm and get in a pace. And it's much more difficult to do those games than it was doing games back in the 80s when they're handing the ball off to Herschel Walker 30 times.
Bob Kesling, the voice of the Vols, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's 2024 Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame inductee Bob Kesling here. Bob, hey, there you go.
You got me.
We got you. Yeah, man. We appreciate you coming back. Thanks. You could have bailed on us.
We're having a big storm here, and my computer just went down, so we've hooked it up on the phone. So, it's today's media day for Tennessee, and Josh Heupel and the coaches just had their press conferences, and they're supposed to be having picture day at the stadium right now, but it is coming down in buckets. So I don't know. That's going to probably clog up their plans today a little bit, but and apparently affected my computer. But good to be back with you guys.
Well, we're glad to have you back, and y'all must be getting the rain that we got yesterday. But thank you for sticking around. We were just talking about how the style of play, both with Heupel's football program and with Rick Barnes and the basketball team, kind of impacts the broadcast from a play-by-play and from a color analyst standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, everything has changed. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, there was no shot clock, and teams are more deliberate, and the pace was slower. Now the shot clock picked up the pace, and now all teams want to play really fast and shoot 3-pointers and move down the floor, and so the pace of the game is different. Football, same thing. Every team now is going with the run and gun, and they want to go fast and wear the defenses out. So you have to adjust to the times, and you try and do that. And so, Maurice, the thing is, you adapt to it because the games are fun. I mean, when you get a chance to sit down and do a game, I mean, Mo, I know you'd much rather cover a game than you would a practice. And that's kind of the same thing with broadcasters. I mean, you'd much rather do a game than you would sit there and watch practice, because half the time you don't know what they're trying to do. And so you're just kind of sitting there watching and trying to get a beat for other players on those type things. But it's the only thing constant is change, and the style of plays change, and the way that the teams go at it. And it's a copycat sport, and all the teams copycat each other, and they want to use the latest, greatest, and that's kind of the way you go about it.
Bob Kesling, the voice of the Tennessee Vols, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Bob, when you are in that seat, you are a celebrity, and the saying goes, from Memphis to Mountain City. Again, what is that like for you to be universally recognized across this state?
Lindsey Nelson, who I keep going back to Lindsey Nelson, who
he's a good one to go back to.
Yeah, when he retired from doing the Giants and the Mets, and I'd met him a couple of times. The first time I ever talked to him, Tennessee was playing Notre Dame in 1979, and my assignment was to get a pregame interview with him. And I tracked him down. He was in New York City. He was in a phone booth on Broadway. And that's where we did my pregame interview with Lindsey Nelson on Wednesday before the Tennessee Notre Dame game. But, Lindsey was in, I think, 16 or 17 Hall of Fames. He was one of the greatest broadcasters that was out there, covered every single sport. And he ended up, of course, he did the Mets. Everybody remembers him doing the Miracle Mets. But he actually retired doing the San Francisco Giants because he wanted to live in San Francisco for a couple of years. So he did the Giants, and then he retired, and he moved back to Knoxville. And he lived up on Cherokee Bluff, overlooking the campus. And he said every morning he'd get on the out in the balcony of his condominium overlooking the campus, and he'd get his newspaper and a glass of orange juice. He would salute the general and sit down and start his day. But I got to befriend him because he would come to Channel 10 where I was working. And he did these things called Lindsey at Large, which were like Andy Rooney segments, if you remember him from 60 Minutes, when he did these 3 minutes or 4 minute deals. And Lindsey did these things for Channel 10 called Lindsey at Large. And it wasn't about sports. It was about, why is Gay Street named Gay Street? Where's General Neyland buried? What about the organ at the Tennessee Theater? All stuff that was so interesting. He did it in one take. And he did it 3 minutes, and you could set your clock to it. I mean, it was amazing. Every one of them was 3 minutes, and he just did it. And then he finished and said, "Have a good day," and then he'd go away. But can you imagine being 29, maybe something like that, just a young broadcaster, and you walk into your office at Channel 10 in the afternoon, and Lindsey Nelson is sitting there reading the newspaper? If you don't learn something from that, and he taught me a couple of things that I've always remembered. One was, don't worry about the money. When you get good enough, they'll throw it at you. And he said, also told me, you're not worth a flip until you've been fired at least once. And I said, well, Lindsey, that's easier for you to say. You've never been fired. He said, no, I was fired 3 times. He said, I got fired at Liberty Broadcasting, got fired at WCBS in New York, I got fired one other place. He said, but getting fired is not a bad thing because it makes you figure out why you got fired. Don't be mad at the guy who fired you. Be mad at yourself and figure out why you got fired. There was a reason they fired you. You need to figure that out. And he also told me in one of our many talks, he said, you're going to, in your business, in this business or any business, you're going to get one break. You're going to get one break. And are you ready for the break? Have you worked hard enough? Have you prepared yourself? Can you, when you get that break, can you knock the door down? And that was always in the back of my mind all the time. And just, it motivated you to try and work hard every day to try and get better. And so Lindsey Nelson was just, one of his trademarks, and people, of course, he's from Columbia, Tennessee. People know that. from that part of the middle state there. But his trademark was one of those god-awful looking sport coats. I mean, he had closets full of these ugly sport coats. And so I went up to his condominium up there on Cherokee Bluff, and he walked me through and showed me a bunch of his sport coats. And he showed me this one that was green and paisley and just god-awful. And I said, where'd you get this one, Lindsay? He said, well, I was going through the garment district in New York and walked by this drapery store, and I saw that piece of material in the window, and I asked the proprietor, could you make that into a sport coat? And the proprietor said, yes, but why? And he said he would wear it to a Mets game in the afternoon, and then he'd wear it to the Met Opera at night, put on a bow tie and go to the Mets. It was a very versatile sport coat. But I just had great mentors with John Ward and Lindsey Nelson and Bill Williams at Channel 10. I was really fortunate to get some guys that took time out to nurture you. John Ward was a guy, he would let you make a mistake, but you don't make the same mistake twice. And he would always tell us, I don't need you excited about the Tennessee-Alabama game. I need you prepared. And I always remember that as well. You need to be prepared and don't let your emotions get out of hand. Remember, you're a reporter and you got to report on the game. And so that's kind of the way I've tried to approach things.
Bob Kesling, 2024 Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame inductee, the voice of the Tennessee Vols, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Bob, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon. Congratulations again. Well-deserved, long overdue, but we understand why.
Hey,
Look forward to hearing you on some Saturday afternoons here real soon.
Hey, it won't be long. Guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And it was quite an honor on Saturday night, and I'm just humbled and blessed by all of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Welcome back to Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Blaine Keller sitting in for Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and really enjoyed being able to speak with Bob Kesling last week following his induction into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. Super guy, and that was fun listening to some of his insight into his career. We are now joined by our soccer analyst, Valair Shabilla of Broadway Sports Media. A couple of days ago, the Nashville Soccer Club retook the pitch up in New England and came off with a 1-1 draw against the Revolution that they dropped 5-4 on penalty kicks, thus ending their Leagues Cup stay at the group stage. And Valair, in their second outing under BJ Callahan, what are we to take from that performance from this team at this point, and what's it mean as they get ready to head back into MLS action here in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the positives are really hard to see. When a team doesn't get a win in 8 games, it's not something that you can easily take positives from. But I think when I came on the show last time, you kind of asked me, are we going to judge BJ Callahan these 2 games? And I think what I told you was we need to just see what he does. It's not necessarily the results. It's more so the performance. And I thought the second half against New England had some really good, promising performance, really, where we saw Nashville SC make these plays that we haven't really seen them make a whole lot of. We saw an active Nashville SC that was pressing, that was going after the ball, going after the opponent, and it was aggressive. And I thought that was a little bit different than what we're used to. Now, unfortunately, they weren't able to get a goal, and at the end of the day, that is the most important thing in soccer. But I thought there were some of those positives. I think it's going to take a while, and I think we go back to the same point of BJ Callahan's ideas seem very clear to Nashville SC, to what he wants to do with Nashville SC. It seems clear to the fans, seems clear to himself, and clear to the players. I'm just not sure if what Nashville SC has currently in their roster can implement those ideas. And I think that's going to be the biggest question in this little break before MLS resumes on the 22nd for Nashville SC.
And I would think that that's particularly, kind of disheartening to the fan base, just, like you said, to not win a game in your last 7 losses, and this draw here against the Revolution, who, we've talked about the Revolution, and the consensus, which means I'm listening to you, is that they are not a great side, but at the same time, NSC has lost to them and drawn with them. And, so the obvious question has to be, what does that say for NSC at this point?
Yeah, I think you look at the standings and you kind of, it tells you everything you need to know about Nashville, I think. There's a reason they haven't been able to win a game in the last 8. Anytime you fire a coach midway through the season and you try to replace him, and then you wait, in soccer terms, they waited 13 games with an interim head coach who's never been a head coach before. And then you bring in a brand new coach for a competition. So BJ Callahan is not going to coach his first MLS game with Nashville SC until late August. So I think it's very hard to have a team that's winning and that's competing and that is good when that many changes happen, and when there's a change, especially in the case of Gary Smith, who was the only coach Nashville SC has had. So going from what you know every day for the last 7 years to a brand new idea, then to another brand new idea, it's hard. And I think that no matter how good you think you've built the squad, they're going to take a hit. And parts of it has to do maybe with players falling out of favor. Parts of it has to do with players getting older. And parts of it has to do with just adapting to change and adapting to a new mentality, a new coach. Nashville SC have been talking about this 2.0, Nashville SC 2.0 situation, and that's what they want to go into. Well, it's really hard to go to 2.0 in the middle of the season and expect to still have a good season. I mean, it just doesn't happen. We've seen it in every single sport. I think the only thing sort of maybe they're holding on to is that they're 2 points away from the play-in spots, which is the 8th and 9th place teams in the Eastern Conference. That doesn't seem like it's impossible for Nashville to make, I don't know how much that will buy in with the fans, you know, in making that game and losing that game, or advancing to the first round of the playoffs. Again, it's going to be a little difficult to convince fans that that is success. However, considering everything, considering the changes, and considering they move to this National C 2.0 halfway through the season, that might be the best they can do.
So there's still a road here for them to hit that 2.0 that Nashville SC is kind of discussed. In your mind, what does that roadmap look like? Is there a target date that maybe you think in, you know, Coach Callahan's tenure that they should be up to speed, up to par with the rest of the league?
So I think what Nashville SC has consistently said is that they're viewing this season as still they want to compete in this season. And their biggest focus on this 2.0 idea is to have young players. The thing with the young players and getting more youthful is that you're building something for the future. So it's a little bit, I'm still not sure exactly what we're supposed to understand here. Is it a team that is building for the future? Or is it a team to win now? And Nashville SC's squad is kind of in between, right? So you have the veteran players, the Walker Zimmerman, the Hani Mukhtars. They're about 30 or so years old. So that's a more in prime veteran player. And now we're seeing a little bit of a younger players. But my question is the connectivity issue of those players early prime or just in their prime. How are they going to obtain that? The idea is BJ Callahan is going to develop those younger players, or 25, 24-year-olds and 22-year-olds into those players, right? And I think that process in itself is going to take some time. I think coming in without a preseason, without a time to kind of implement his ideas is also another thing. So to answer your question, I don't know if there's a fair sort of timetable we can say exactly by that period. I would say, however, if we don't start seeing improvements at the beginning of next season, with this period right now, with a preseason, with 2 transfer windows under BJ Callahan, if we don't start seeing a better Nashville SC, a more developed, more focus on younger kids and developing those younger kids, Nashville SC, by the beginning of next season, I think some worrying signs, and some people will be worried, and fairly so. I think anytime before next season, it's a little too early for me to be worried or to hit that panic button.
Mm-hmm.
VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports Media joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little footy with the NSC. VALAIR, was there anything at all coming into this season that indicated that we might be sitting here on a 8-game winless streak in mid-August?
No, I mean, I think there were some. They ended the season poorly, right? They ended last season poorly, and I think that's fair to say. However, the work they did in the offseason and everything we were hearing from that camp just seemed like things are getting back to more normal, right? And then when we saw when the season first started, it wasn't a team that was firing on all cylinders by any means, but it also wasn't a team that is that bad. So I don't think at any point, this is historic bad form for Nashville SC, and I just don't think at any point that was expected. The other thing we didn't expect is that parting ways with Gary Smith, right? I mean, I think the reason they gave was, you know, they essentially, it's over a period of time where he wasn't getting the results they wanted, which is a fair reason. I think it was time to move on. But I feel like they could have made that decision before the season started. And I feel like they could have gotten a coach before the season started, maybe. Because funny enough, when time came and they did get rid of Gary Smith, there was, I mean, he had just won a game. You know, there was a little bit of a resurgence coming through. So,
right.
So it just didn't seem like it. And the schedule following that would have been a really easy schedule for him to maybe pick up some more steam. So because we didn't, once Nashville SC finished last season and Gary Smith was still at the helm, I didn't expect that Nashville SC would go this far down the pecking order when it comes to MLS. And I don't think many people did. Now, I don't think anybody expected Nashville to win MLS Cup. You wouldn't find anybody, you know, picking them to do a deep run. in the playoffs or anything like that. But I don't think anybody expected them to be this bad.
Valair, with some veteran players like Walker Zimmerman and Hani Mukhtar, how do you kind of maybe, I wouldn't say separate yourself from them, but if you're Nashville SC and you want to buy into that youth and, key into the development that Coach Callahan's supposed to have with this next era, what do you do with those guys?
Well, I think the main thing with the youth is that you have a constant talent pool that you can pull from. They're not the guys that you're going to depend on every game, right? They're going to be the guys. They're not going to be your Walker Zimmerman. They're not going to be your Hani Mukhtars. Walker and Hani Mukhtar are your DPs, right? They're designated players. You pay them all this money to do this job well, right? And I think the idea is that the roster around them, the reinforcement, if you would, that comes from the youth. I don't think it's realistic to say, let's get rid of anybody who's over the age of 29 or 28 or something like that. That's not a recipe for success. But how about, spot 1 through 5 in the roster, maybe it's those veteran guys. And now instead of spot 5 to 15 being guys in their 30, 34, 32, how about we bring in 24-year-olds? How about we bring in 25-year-olds? And maybe 18-year-olds, they have an academy, right? So it's like, it's those roster spots. I don't think your 3 DPs, which are Sam Surridge, Hani Mukhtar, and Walker Zimmerman, I don't think they're going to be affected by this as much as, let's say, somebody like Teal Bunbury, right? Not an everyday starter, but a good squad player. He's in his 30s. He's probably going to be looking to be outside of BJ Callahan plans. And you look even at somebody like Dan Lovitz, who is a starter. And to answer your point there, it is hard to get rid of those players, right? Because you have all these assets, for a lack of better words, that people aren't willing to pay you money for. So I think you either eat the contract or you find a way to use them in the squad as those veteran players that the younger players can learn from and adapt from until they're no longer under contract with you. So I think the biggest piece here for BJ Callahan is to determine if we're saying there will be 10 veteran players in this whole squad, who are those 10? We know the three DPs are going to be there. We know they're not moving, but how about those other spots? Is it going to be Dan Lovitz and Shaq Moore? Are they sticking around? Is somebody like Teal Bunbury or Alex Muyl? Are those guys sticking around? I think those guys will feel the most sort of need to prove themselves, because if Nashville's moving younger, we know they're not getting rid of their superstars. They're probably going to get rid of that second tier, right, of players. And I think those guys are going to be needing to prove themselves more than anybody else.
Valair Shabilla of Broadway Sports Media joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little Nashville Soccer Club as they come off of a 1-1 draw against the New England Revolution in their second group stage matchup of the Leagues Cup. And with the 5-4 loss on penalty kicks, they are done in Leagues Cup. And Valair, I don't know. I think that part of the disappointment might be just the way that they caught fire in the Leagues Cup last year, and for them to go 2-0 this year is just, I guess it's kind of reflective of the way the season has gone. But at the same time, you kind of felt like maybe this would be an opportunity for them to kind of get right and get into the rest of the MLS season.
Yeah, I think this is a Throwback Thursday show, right? So if you throw it back to Leagues Cup last year, I just got a memory on my phone actually of Nashville SC beating one of the Mexican giants at Geodis Park and advancing to a further round in the Leagues Cup. And I just remember the buzz this team caught. We know this city, we know this market. This market loves a playoffs run. This market loves a cup run. They will go all out on it. And when that cup run was met with a Lionel Messi Inter Miami final that went all the way to the 11th kick of a penalty shootout to lose, you got a lot of people behind you. And unfortunately for Nashville SC, they just haven't been able to capitalize on those people that came behind them. And I not from a marketing standpoint or anything like that, more so just on the pitch. Winning is what solves all. Winning is what makes teams have fans. You win, you have more fans. That's just how it is. And And unfortunately, they just haven't been able to capitalize on it. And I think you're completely 100% right in that coming into this Leagues Cup, it was like, yeah, Nashville is not as good as they were last year. But also when they went into the Leagues Cup last year, they weren't in the best of form. They were getting 2 red cards a game for the last 2 games before the Leagues Cup. And they started off Leagues Cup pretty poorly. They lost to Toluca and they barely beat Colorado. But then after that, once they made the knockout round, everything went well. And I guess a lot of fans, and rightly so, they still had that hope that maybe our start wasn't great, but BJ Callahan's coming in. Maybe there's a new manager bump. Maybe we can move on. And I think that's what really hurts a lot of folks, is that it's not just that they got out of the Leagues Cup, it's how it happened and sort of everything that's been going on. It's just there's very little hope to hang on to at this moment.
Right. And so with that said, what do you feel like has to happen with this team between now and the 24th when Austin comes into Geodis, for something to happen to give this fan base something positive to hang on to? I don't even want to say a win, just something positive.
Right. I mean, winning is obviously the cop-out answer here. So I'll give you something else. I think they need to score goals. I think that their goal that they scored against New England was their first goal in 7 halves of soccer. That's not going to cut it. Nobody's excited about coming to watch their team not score a single goal. Whether they win or lose, they just got to score goals. I think when you hear BJ Callahan talk, he's saying all the right things. He's hitting all the right points. So we want to be aggressive. We want to do something with the ball, and we want to go out there and press the attacking the other team and do our best there. Okay, that's all fun and good. Now we need to see it on the pitch, and I think that's going to be the biggest, probably the hardest thing for him to do, is how can he turn those chances into goals? They had so many chances against New England. I think
19 shots on goal.
Yeah, there you go. That's how they had 15 corners to New England 0 corners, and
wow,
they weren't able to capitalize on that. So I think the first thing is, okay, now we've proved that we can attack and maybe we can create those chances. How can we score goals? Because when they're scoring goals, even if the game ends, let's say they lose or they tie 3-3, 3-2, 2-2, that's still going to be a good memory for a fan that's going to a game that will probably say, I'll come back next week. We have a chance, right? To where going in and losing 1-0, especially in a playoffs game or a high profile game, that fan is probably not wanting to come back the next day.
Right. Valair SHABILLA joining us here on Main Street Sports today, and we are always the better for it when he does. Valair, we appreciate it. Thanks for visiting with us, and let's hope that coming out of August 24th, we've got some better things to talk about regarding the Nashville Soccer Club.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, and sorry I didn't have my usual setup today, but yeah, I'll have to catch up with you guys after August 22nd or 24th. Sorry.
Hey, we will take Valair SHABILLA any way we can get him. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Hey, let's take a quick break. Return to the Lee Company Studios for the final segment of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll be right back.
He shoots, and he scores!
Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, joined by Blaine Keller, who is sitting in for the vacationing Wade Neely. Again, it's the final segment. It's the grab bag, and we need to get to some Olympic stuff because the U.S. men's basketball team just survived literally their semifinal matchup against Serbia. They were down 15 going into the fourth quarter, and I missed the final sequence, but I think they won by 2, maybe like 95-93, something like that. They took the score bug down.
95-91 was the final.
95-91. Okay. Again, they were down 15 coming into the fourth quarter. That was after they had cut a double-digit lead down to 6 in the third. And at that point, again, cutting that lead to 6 and then getting down 15, you could kind of feel things starting to slip away. And I couldn't obviously pay attention like I wanted to because I was trying to conduct a segment with Valair. But they did manage to hang on and win 95-91. They will go to the gold medal game against France, which defeated Germany prior to this matchup. And so, you know, the earth is still on its axis. Team USA is in the gold medal game.
Looked like Bogdan Bogdanovic, not Bohan, but Bogdan, had a pretty good game for Serbia. You know, everybody knows the stars of the USA team, and of course, you know, Nikola Jokic, of course, leading Serbia to this point in the Olympic Games. But there are a couple of ballers on Serbia's team as well, and you know, Bogdanovic, and that's one guy who I thought has always had a pretty good game. Former King and now Atlanta Hawk.
Yeah. You might have expected the USA to handle their business a little bit better this time around since they defeated Serbia 110-84 earlier in these same Olympic Games, I guess in the group stage. But Serbia came out and was pretty lethal from behind the arc early on, and again put a lot of pressure on Team USA. They were up double digits heading into half, coming out of half, and again into the third quarter. And I'll be interested to go back and look at this again and see what it was that they were able to do to, I wouldn't say get things under control, but to get out with a victory and get into the gold medal game. Because, I mean, when we go back to pre-Paris, you know, there were some questions about this team coming off that South Sudan game and what was it? The Germany game, I guess it was, that they won by 4 prior to Paris. And they seemed to right themselves once they got there, but Serbia gave them everything they wanted. And, you know, I would kind of expect this France team to do the same thing.
Well, it's easy to say that with Wemby on the team.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
I think that'll be a fun final there.
Absolutely. So the men have made the semis. The women will play in the semis tomorrow against Australia and put their 59-game Olympic win streak on the line against Australia as they try to get into the gold medal game as well. Try to position themselves for an 8th straight gold medal. And you know, with Asia Wilson playing the way she's playing right now, 20 points, 10 boards in their quarterfinal win over Nigeria yesterday, I'm not betting against them.
One more note on that men's game against Serbia there. You know, it did take a fourth quarter effort for the United States to come back and win it. Again, 95-91, you know, not a high scoring game by any means, but really a great defensive effort in the fourth. USA outscored Serbia 32-15. Serbia only had 15 fourth quarter points. I mean, how about some of the NBA guys locking them up now? Where's this in today's league?
Well, and I think part of that, as much as anything, was that Serbia wasn't able to get runouts off of turnovers. It looked like the U.S. was a little loose with the ball from what I was able to see going into the fourth quarter, and it felt like they just took a little bit better care of the ball down the stretch and kind of limited Serbia's opportunities by not turning it over. So that helps. But yeah, like you said, kind of locking them down a little bit, and much needed. You know, you had to figure some kind of way to get them slowed down because they were giving them, again, all they wanted through 3 quarters. Coming off of the men's 100 meters, we were looking for Noah Lyles in the 200, which is his better event, as he has told us, and he was going for the double today. Wound up winning bronze and then disclosing after his race that he was diagnosed a couple of days ago with COVID. Now, for a guy who is an asthmatic, running with COVID and winning bronze in the Olympic, it kind of puts that bronze in a different perspective, I would dare say.
But if he was, I don't know, maybe they've laxed it a little bit, but should he be running? If he's going to get some other guys sick?
That's a question that a lot of folks are going to have to answer, I think. I think a lot of folks are going to have to answer that. I think Noah Lyles is going to have to answer that. I think U.S. coaching staff is probably going to have to answer that. I mean, I'm not sure.
If Noah Lyles knew.
I'm not sure who knew.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first question. Besides Noah Lyles knowing, who else knew that Noah Lyles had COVID 2 days before? And whoever did know, I think that's a question that they have to answer. You know, should he have been running? So, I mean, I just said we were going to try and quarantine as much as possible, stay away, not try to pass it off, and just to be honest, give it my all, Lyles says in this article on The Athletic. If I wasn't to make it, then somebody would have definitely taken my spot, and that would have been my sign that I didn't deserve to be in the final. There is no mandatory testing for COVID at these games, nor any official protocol if an athlete tests positive. So I guess it's kind of the honor system, maybe.
Wow. I'm honestly shocked that that's the protocol, that there isn't really a protocol.
Prior to the games, 5 Australian water polo players tested positive and were allowed to play again when they were feeling well. So now Lyles is set to run on the 4x1, I believe. And I think that will bear watching, obviously. Is he well enough? Do they let him? I mean, there's a lot here. All of a sudden.
To unpack.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack. There's plenty to unpack. Absolutely. Finally, there's an interesting article. I think it's on yahoosports.com. Woodrow Wilson High School out of Long Beach, California, has produced at least one Olympian at every summer game since 1952.
Wow. Mo, do you have any Olympians from your coverage area?
I don't.
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I was thinking the other day, you know, we've had 3 professional athletes come out of Franklin High School, which is where I graduated, you know, since the 2000s, but, you know, or late 90s, I guess. But no Olympians that I'm aware of. So to have one every 4 years,
that's some coaching staff.
That's somehow I don't think it's the same staff. But that's pretty stout, to say the least. So good stuff there. Hey, that's going to do it for today's Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, want to thank Blaine Keller for sitting in for Wade Neely here today. Enjoyed it. Blaine, appreciate you. I'm sure we'll be swinging back to you again the next time Wade out of pocket.
Glad to be in the rotation now. Unofficially, officially. Just hope for a Rangers win every now and again whenever I come on here.
We will see what
good things.
we'll see what we can do about that. Tomorrow we will have a best of show, so be sure and check it out at 2 o'clock. Wade and I should be back Monday at 2 o'clock right here